The trial of the prosecutor versus Dominic Ongwen continued from 11th September until 5th October 2017 at the International Criminal Court in The Hague. During this time, a total of 11 witnesses were called by the Office of the Prosecutor to give their testimony in relation with the Lord's Resistance Army and Dominic Ongwen. The alleged former Brigade Commander of the Sinia Brigade of the LRA is accused of 70 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity allegedly committed during attacks against the civilian population in Lukodi, Pajule, Odek and Abok IDP camps between October 2003 and June 2004. Since opening its case on 16th January 2017, the prosecution has called 38 witnesses. The witnesses are first questioned by the Office of the Prosecutor, then by the legal representatives of victims, and finally by the defense. Mr. Ongwen is represented by a defense team led by Defense Counsel Crispus Ayena Odongo. The defense conducts its own investigations and has the right to examine prosecution witnesses. Between 11th September and 5th October 2017, 11 witnesses were called by the prosecution, including several former LRA soldiers, numerous survivors of attacks in northern Uganda, UPDF officers, and investigators from the International Criminal Court. In relation to the specific crimes of which Dominic Ongwen is charged, 8 out of the 11 witnesses testified about the LRA attacks on IDP camps in northern Uganda. In its pre-trial brief, the Office of the Prosecutor alleges that Dominic Ongwen took part in the commission of the charged crimes in the IDP camps together with other senior LRA commanders. A former UPDF soldier by the name of Mr. John Lubwamba testified in relation to the attack on the Pajule IDP camp. Based on information he got from LRA escapees and other intelligence sources at the time, he pointed out which LRA commanders were leading the group that attacked Pajule.
I said that when I got the information about who was leading the group and the operational commander, who was Vincent Otti, that he was approximately 12 kilometers from Pajule to the east of Pajule. I heard that the person who was leading the group and who carried out the attack was led by Lokia Raska. After that, when the captives finished giving us this information, I handed them over to the officer responsible for intelligence, and he left with the captives. Colonel Otema at the time. That was the person who the captives were provided to, and the colonel left with them.
Another prosecution witness, Mr. Joseph Balikudembe, testified in relation to the attack on the Odek IDP camp by LRA members in April 2004. As a UPDF officer at the time, Mr. Balikudembe received information through military radio communication about an attack taking place in the Odek IDP camp. During his testimony, he described what he saw at the camp after the attack and explained that the UPDF also gathered information from rescued LRA abductees shortly after the attack.
My lord, we managed also to get information that indeed the attackers were LRA, and a group of that attack, those who attacked were from a group of Dominic Ongwen.
According to the Office of the Prosecutor, Ongwen is also responsible for sexual and gender-based crimes committed between 1st July 2002 and 31st December 2005. The prosecution argues that Ongwen, together with Joseph Kony and the Sinia Brigade leadership, implemented a common plan to abduct girls and women to serve as domestic servants, forced exclusive conjugal partners and sex slaves, which also allegedly resulted in the commission of rape and torture. As part of the implementation of such common plan, the Office of the Prosecutor alleges that Joseph Kony ordered the abduction of girls from the Aboke and Luala schools. Witness P0070 testified about the abduction of schoolgirls by the LRA in Luala. He described how the operation was carried out and what happened to some of the girls after the abduction.
When those schoolgirls were abducted, there were 2 battalions that went there. They were from Tabule's group. When they went and carried out the operation, they abducted the girls without any resistance. There was no fight. The girls were brought, and one of the groups went to Tabule, the other one did not go back to Tabule. The girls were eventually taken to OT. The circumstances around their abduction was the fact that there was instruction that there was need to abduct more people for recruitment, whether the abduction was to take place in the school or not. That was the reason the girls were abducted.
The prosecution also alleges that Dominic Ongwen was responsible for implementing the LRA harsh discipline system in the units supervised by him when his orders were not obeyed, and that he carried out some of the punishments himself. According to the OTP pretrial brief, Dominic Ongwen kicked and beat abductees brought near him and ordered the killing of people living in IDP camps. A former LRA abductee, protected witness P0097, described Ongwen as a strict commander. During his days in the bush, the witness spent some time within Ongwen's group and said he was once punished by order of Odomi himself, although he never heard Ongwen ordering the killing of civilians.
I did not hear any instructions telling them to kill people if they found anybody, that they should kill the people, but most times I heard him telling people to go and get food. I did not hear him telling them to kill anybody.
In a similar way, protected witness P0233, also a former LRA abductee, referred to Ongwen as someone who would live very well with people and would not do anything bad. He said that those who should be brought before the International Criminal Court are LRA commanders Joseph Kony and Okoto Diambo instead of Dominic Ongwen.
In his whole life, he's been living very well with people. He would really ensure that his soldiers were happy. He would never give instructions about killing of civilians. I never heard him instruct or give instructions for the killing of civilians. His soldiers loved him so much, and whenever he was identified to go for a standby, even when the battle ahead is a very difficult one, people would willingly join him to go and fight. I personally used to love him. I used to like him a lot because I never saw anything so bad that he ordered for. He never ordered for the killing of any civilian. He never ordered for the killing of anyone. I did not see or hear of that.
When asked about the living conditions of abductees in the bush, witnesses talked about what could happen when they tried to escape the LRA. Witness P0045 stated that during her 12 years of abduction, she became aware of numerous LRA internal disciplinary rules, some of them relating to the treatment of LRA escapees, which, according to her testimony, also applied on LRA commanders.
At the time, the commanders were unable to escape because the commanders had soldiers under them, under their command, so you could not make a decision to escape. You did not know whether or not the soldiers who were under your command would go and report, so you're always fearful for your life. All the children were taught about how to stay in the bush, so you do not know exactly what everybody's thinking.
Another witness, former LRA abductee witness P0081, also testified about the difficulties faced by those who decided to escape the LRA and, in some cases, surrender to the UPDF. He told the court how he felt during the time he stayed at one of the UPDF barracks after he escaped the LRA.
I felt threatened. It made me think twice that if I escape, it made me remember that if you escape from the bush, they would come and look for you. And then they also told me from here that if I escape, they would come for me. I feared and I continued staying there.
Mr. Ray Apire, a former LRA sick-bay captain, testified about his various experiences in the bush since his abduction in 1988 until his escape from the LRA in June 2004. During his testimony, Mr. Apire also said that after he and his wife had escaped the LRA separately, he tried to convince Dominic Ongwen to escape the LRA as well. According to him, Ongwen was scared about escaping the LRA.
When I met him at Upita, I told him, look, we are here, we are with people from home, your wife is at home. But despite the advice that I'd given him, other people were telling him something different, so he was extremely afraid as well. But I had made the decision to go and talk to him and let him know that we're okay. But the fear that had been instilled in Ongwen was so great that it was difficult for him to make a decision to leave.
Two witnesses also testified about their involvement with the OTP investigations in the case against Dominic Ongwen. Mr. Timothy Nabaasa Kanyogonya testified as a UPDF officer who was served as a focal point between OTP investigators and the UPDF since March 2004. In his role, the witness testified that he examined and submitted information from various intelligence sources that could be incriminatory and exculpatory in relation to the LRA as a whole, and not specifically in relation to Dominic Ongwen. Mr. Xavier Laroche also testified about his contributions as forensic officer of the ICC to the OTP investigations. Mr. Laroche worked on enhancing radio signals from the charged period by filtering the surrounding noises in order to make the voices on the recordings clearer and more intelligible by the human ear. He recognized the difficulties he faced in performing his duties of enhancing audio tapes, which contained words in Acholi and other languages spoken in northern Uganda. The trial of the prosecutor versus Dominic Ongwen will resume on Monday, 30th October 2017, with the testimony of the 39th witness called by the prosecution.